So Shadow's the newest character in the game. Unfortunately, not that Shadow. This one's a pretty cool unit. He has a lot of stuff going for him, but I feel like a lot of people are playing this character in a very suboptimal way. You see, Shadow's pretty unique, where he's offering some support in one playstyle that can get you crazy damage with a bunch of different characters, and he also has more of a very offensive attacker role he can play as well. Both are good, but I feel like there's definitely a clear winner between the two. But before we talk about that, let me actually tell you what he does and how he can achieve these two different playstyles. All of his stuff is all about buffing up either his team's damage or reducing some type of physical res or buffing up his own damage. But not only do we have to talk about his active stuff in the kit, let's talk about his abilities, which his main one is Eminence and Shadow, which autofills dark allies are engaged by 5 when Shadow's HP is 70% or more. This is a constant effect, by the way, always active as long as you're above 70% HP. So this means that Shadow has built-in self-sufficient arc gauge on top of the fact that you're maybe using his true weapon as well. Gives him a ton of extra damage thanks to the passive, and autofills his own arc gauge by 2 per second. I definitely feel like if you're going more of the damage route, this is what you're going to want to go, and you're going to want to slot this in all the time. And even if you're not going the damage route, I would say it's pretty much required on him. However, if you want to go a bit more supporting or something like that, and you kind of want to play into his physical res down and everything, you could use an equip here that just gives a massive physical res down to go on top of his stackable physical res down. Of course, the 5-star magic go with the usual, same thing if you're nuking, and 4-star physical, same thing. B3 claw or anything that's buffing up his damage in any way. So for the crest slots, I think it's actually a little bit interesting on what you can go here. Arc gauge up, of course, is always godly. Equipment CT is actually really good here because it stacks with his physical equip CT, so you can really just make your physical equips zoom. Or of course, if you want to build into more of his damage and everything, attack up is definitely the way to go. I personally say attack up is going to be the one that I'm going for, but I'm not going to really try to get that till I try to 4+ this guy at a later date. Now, since we talked about the kit, you may be able to see how there could be different team comps for this man, Shadow. If you were going more damage, well, it's pretty easy when it comes to building Shadow himself. We could use characters like Hoka for an example, so we can give him crit chance and also a crazy damage buff on top of it. Also, maybe throw a Diablo on there for the dark res down, and if you want to, you could cap it all off with Yuzu, which unfortunately I don't have, and there you go. That's going to be a crazy DPS team just focusing only on this man Shadow. God damn. But one thing that I think is a bit better for Shadow is actually using him more as this physical res down supporting character. And this team is fairly similar to the team that I just mentioned. However, there's a few differences here. We got arc gauge from multiple different sources. We have a physical damage buff, crit res debuff, and of course we have Uzu being our main damage dealer. It's not going to be Summer Miyu here. Summer Miyu is actually here supporting the rest of the team. And this team, well, let me just tell you, it hits hard. As you see here, this is against the training battle, and I mean, yeah, this damage is... it's definitely something. However, if I wanted to use this team in actual gameplay, I would make some changes, mainly only one, and that is taking off the Summer Miyu for someone like Shiro Emiya. The reason why I'm going with Emiya here instead of Summer Miyu is because in harder content, you're gonna need some type of damage mitigation, and this is kind of the best way to do it, because unfortunately, just Uzu's defense slot isn't enough. Now, another thing that we can actually do is we're looking into the future now, let me say. We can use this character alongside someone like Holy Knight Roy. So you could use a team that's consisting of Hoka, Holy Knight Roy, Summer Miyu, and Shadow and deal crazy amounts of deeps like that. Or even throwing in Shadow instead of Summer Miyu and then having a Shiro on that team, and there you go, you have a really strong sustain team that's giving tons of physical res down, and you're going to be having wild damage in that regard as well. And to me, this is his strongest playstyle. One thing that's really good in GS is buffing up your damage in multiple different ways. When it comes to buffing up with arts damage, physical damage, crit damage, all that type of stuff matters, right? But also factoring in a debuff of some kind on top of everything else is huge. The only negative thing I can really say about this character at the current moment is that I feel like his weakest team is unfortunately a mono dark team. Since we already have a pretty established dark lineup when it comes to mono dark, that being dark demons of course, I feel like it's kind of hard to make the Shadow team seem like it's even on the same level at times. This will definitely change as time goes on because we're going to be getting other characters, and eventually that team that's the mono dark team could be insanely broken, with Shadow being one of the main components on that team. Outside of that though, this character is absolutely phenomenal. Whenever you need to buff up your physical damage dealers in any way, shape, or form, throwing Shadow on your team is huge. Another thing that I want to mention is that this guy is actually really strong against any type of evasion boss. You could use Shadow over an accuracy unit by just stacking tons and tons of evasion rate down on the boss. The main thing I'm getting at here is Shadow is actually a lot better than what I initially thought. He's a very strong unit that definitely has a place in the meta and is absolutely any physical damage dealer's best friend. If he had maybe a 5-star support slot, then he would be, I would say, insanely strong. But for right now, he's really good. And I'm hoping that later on down the line, we get even more dark characters so we can really see how well that mono dark team, where Shadow is pretty much the leader of it, can do. But hey, that's gonna be it for this one. Thank you all for coming out. Tell me down below what you all think about Shadow. You like him? Do you not? Is he kind of or how you feeling? Let me know all that type of stuff down below in the comment section. Oh, and one more thing before you leave, don't forget to drink water.